Welcome back. Second hour of the Stock Car Show gets the green flag now here on the Performance Motorsports Network, presented as always by HMS Motorsport, the leaders in motorsports safety. Visit them on the web at hmsmotorsport.com. Tom Baker, Jacob Seelman, Cisco Scaramuza, and we are going to talk about a series, and I love this when we can do this, that we have never talked about on this show before, and I can't wait because I love this series, the Lucas Oil Off-Road Series. And we're going to talk with a driver named George Hamill, a paraplegic racer who is an amazing inspiration to so many people, and what a story this man has. George, welcome to the program, and I cannot tell you how excited we are to have you on with us to talk for a while.
What's up, guys? Thanks very much for having me.
Well, it's great to have you, as I said, and I'd like to just start by allowing you to talk a little bit about the background, talk about your story a little bit, and just give our listening audience an idea of where you started and kind of where you've come to and the obstacles that you've faced between. And those of you listening, pull up tight here because this is a really amazing story.
Well, thanks. I appreciate it. Yeah, interrupt me anytime, too. But I used to be a professional dirt bike racer. I grew up in Arizona out in the dirt. So it was, everybody liked riding dirt bikes, quads, and those types of things. And it ended up being a profession for me. And back in 1998, I ended up breaking my back and getting paralyzed. And, it's the nature of the beast when you're riding dirt bikes to break bones. And so to date, I've broken 58 bones, my back 3 times. And the second time I broke my back was what ended up paralyzing me from the waist down. But since then, I've been able to work really hard and get back on and start walking around again. Got out of the wheelchair after 5 years, man.
That is just an incredible story. First of all, I don't know anyone else who's broken their back 3 times. And second of all, to be able to go from not being able to walk to then being able to walk again, talk about the journey that whole situation took you on.
Well, there was a lot of trials and tribulations, that's for sure. The emotional roller coaster was one of the hardest parts about it, but the journey itself, you're sitting in a wheelchair and you just think like, man, what can I do not to have this? What can I do to make my life better? And I thought to myself, well, I'm just never going to give up. These doctors told me that I'm never going to walk again. I'm going to sit in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. And I just basically, cursed at them and said, it's not going to happen. I'm not going to give up. And I went through, my college years and I drove the wheelchair around school and all that stuff. And ended up just wanting to get better so badly that, I thought, what can I do to walk again? And we started finding like leg braces that would work. And I started using crutches, like the Canadian crutches, which attach to your forearms, and standing up and, taking 1 or 2 steps. It was like the most liberating thing in my life. Most people get up and they're tired and they're like, oh, I don't want to get out of bed. Well, for me to stand up and get out of bed, I was like doing jumping jacks in my mind, it was crazy cool. So, I started getting a little bit more strength and really pushing hard. And I thought, okay, well, maybe I can start, riding a bicycle again and getting a little bit more active. And so I would, get special clip-in pedals and make myself as secure as possible. I'd fall down all the time, but, I'd start riding the bicycle and, it kind of just led to me keep escalating the game of my life. And I started riding dirt bikes again. And in 2008 or 2009, I was invited to participate in the X Games again. And at the X Games, we got to go to the Home Depot Center, and I got to compete against like-minded and like-bodied individuals, some amputees, some paraplegics. And we were on the biggest stage in the world. I mean, this is, nationally broadcast, worldwide broadcasting, and we got to compete on the same platform that all of the other professional racers did, just because we had put in so much hard work to be able to get to that position in our lives again.
Wow.
George, I wanted to actually go back to the initial point on this journey. Correct me if I'm wrong, but when the initial accident happened in 1998. That was your first major pro motocross race, was it not?
Yeah, it was. I had raced a couple Supercross races that year, and we did pretty good. But I had always been a better outdoor rider. I liked going faster in the speeds and the less technical stuff. And I was chasing. It was in Southern California, and I was chasing my buddy, one of the Arizona guys that we grew up with. His name's Jimmy Button. He was a teammate to Jeremy McGrath, and at the time, he was one of the top guys. And I said, okay, well, I'm going to follow him around. And I started following him around the track, and I was doing pretty good. I mean, he was quite a bit faster than me for the overall pace, but I was able to pace him for laps at a time, so I could hang with him for a lap or so. And we were coming down what's called Mount St. Helens, and it's just a big hill. It's one of the biggest hills on the motocross tracks in the United States. And it gets what's called braking bumps at the bottom of the hill, like big whoop-de-doos. And I come down the hill, and we're in fourth gear wide open on the dirt bikes at that time. So you're cooking pretty good. And I ended up just kind of falling off the back of the bike and giving it full throttle and hitting a jump at the bottom of the hill just way too fast. And it kind of bucked me off like a bucking bronco and just threw me up in the air. And I flew through the air for, 70, 80 feet and landed on my legs. And I broke both my legs, my tailbone, my back, both of my arms, and fractured a little piece of my skull just because it was such a hard impact flying through the air and landing on your feet.
I mean, at that point, when you talk about those kind of injuries, and then when you're in the hospital and they say you're never going to walk again, especially with this being your first pro outdoor race, I mean, what is that, or what were the emotions like at that point? And then for you to dig so deep and just even in that moment, facing all of that, say, we're not going to give up. We're going to get through this. I mean, that to me is one of the most amazing parts of all of this.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think it's a little of both. I've always had the strength and the mindset to never give up and to always be better. But I think it also comes back to, being young. I was 19 when it happened, so I was a little naive. Maybe I didn't understand the actual, really intense portion of the situation. I maybe thought whatever they're telling me, I don't want to listen to them, like the typical teenager. And that gave me the opportunity to kind of just bypass them and say, no, I don't believe you. You're not right. I'm going to be able to do it my way. And that's what gave me the strength to be able to do it. I didn't understand how big of a journey it was going to be. I just knew I wasn't going to quit.
And George, you mentioned, you were young when this happened, but there's a running theme in the X Games. I think of what you went through and being able to come back on this biggest stage. And the X Games is one of the few sporting events where that's on display more than most, and not necessarily because of that it's built to do that, but rather that these are extreme sports. It's the X Games, but I think of what you've been able to do. I think about Travis Pastrana back when he had his injury and coming back. What is it about motocross and racing in general that gives you that strength to come back with such vigor and such emotion and just amazing, and being able to do these amazing things?
I don't know. I think it's just a personality trait. If you ask a lot of the guys, like Travis Pastrana and different people like that, a lot of them will just tell you that they just want to be better all the time. So most of them, maybe it is being naive, or maybe it's just strength. I don't know, but they don't think about their body first. They think about winning first. They think about being a champion. They think about how much better that they can be at doing what they want to do and what they love, and everybody's addicted to adrenaline in those types of sports. And just like you said with the X Games, when I did get the opportunity to go in the X Games, I made a mistake. I fell down with 2 laps to go, and I actually ended up breaking my arm. But I got back up on the bike with a broken arm, passed 2 people, and finished the race, watched the podium guys because I was so pissed off that I wasn't on the podium, and then went to the hospital and got fixed.
He's a braver man than me.
I mean, I don't know if I should be laughing right there, but I love the way you put that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you guys said, it's the mentality. You want to be better. You want to do good.
George, I don't want to get too long-winded right here, but if you wouldn't mind sticking with us, we've got another segment coming up after a commercial break here in a second, and we want to talk a little bit more with you if that's all right, and also definitely dive a little bit deeper into the Lucas Oil off-road stuff since you've transitioned to that here over the last year or so.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we're going to go ahead and step aside briefly, and when we come back, we continue with George Hamill here on the Stock Car Show presented by HMS Motorsport. You're listening to the Performance Motorsports Network. We'll be right back.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Automotive technicians and auto service trainees, how would you like to work at the beach and perform for one of the best car care centers in the nation? Louis Meineke is now looking for skilled automotive technicians to join their award-winning team. If you're a gearhead that knows his or her stuff or a young up-and-comer that has the motivation and drive to succeed, then you need to make this call today. 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center, located in beautiful Lewis, Delaware, offers a highly competitive compensation plan, great benefits, a flexible schedule, and did we mention that you're going to be working at the beach? Plus, there's a signing bonus for the right candidates. Technicians must be ASE certified and have a minimum of 6 years experience. Beginners advance at your own pace in one of several entry-level positions. But whatever you do, don't wait. These jobs will go fast. Call Tim at 302-827-2054. That's 302-827-2054. Louis Meineke Car Care Center. Rev up your career.
You hear that? That's the sound of America's only sports car. That's right. It's a Corvette. But not just any Corvette. It's your Corvette. It's that who cares if there's traffic part of your day. And this can be you when you come to Cooper Corvettes. With 60 years of Corvettes to choose from, there's always a Corvette in your budget. And they'll service any Corvette you bring in. Cooper Corvettes on Route 1 just north of Quantico and Triangle. Call, click, or visit CooperCorvettes.com.
How to deal with someone who says that's so gay. Outsmart them.
This party is like so gay. Totally.
Excuse me, but did you ladies know the word gay used to mean happy or excited? Then it became a word used to describe gay people. Then somehow it came to mean dumb or stupid, which is how you just used it, which is not very nice.
Ew, that guy is on the football team and super smart, and he totally hates us now. Totally.
When you say that's so gay, do you realize what you say? Knock it off. Learn more at thinkbeforeyouspeak.com.
Hi, I'm Spencer Davis, and you're listening to Race Talk on the Performance Motorsports Network. Now back to the show.
Welcome back to the Performance Motorsports Network and the Stock Car Show. Tom Baker, Jacob Seelman, Cisco Scaramuza, and Bill Hope behind the glass. Having a little too much fun tonight, I think. Good thing this is not in video. We've got George Hamill with us, and really quite a story here, George, and just having a minute or two to digest everything that you've been through to this point and thinking about where you're at now with the Lucas Oil Off-Road Series. I feel like this place where you're at now is just perfect. I mean, Lucas Oil Off-Road just seems like the perfect place to go. Coming off, a two-wheel career and all the injuries you've had, let's go off-road racing. Why not?
Yeah, exactly. And then I love being in the dirt and getting dirty and playing in the mud. But it took me a while to get up there. I had put really my mind into it and understand how I was going to be able to do it. It's not cheap to go off-road racing, and I knew that from the get-go. So I should probably backstory a little bit. After the X Games, I was training to, be better at the dirt bike racing again, still being a paraplegic. But then I ended up breaking my back the third time, and at that point, I had another surgery, and the doctor said, "Hey, you better not do any more damage to your back, otherwise it's not going to be repairable next time." So I made a conscious decision to, look into the off-road racing stuff, and I said, "Okay, well, I'm never going to be able to afford this. What am I going to do?" And I thought, okay, well, I'll start riding bicycles and making an impact, and showing people what you can do, even if you're, have setbacks, and
Sure.
you can still achieve your goals as long as you try hard. So I started riding a bicycle on the, like the Lance Armstrong street bicycles and stuff like that. And I ended up, doing a 111-mile bicycle race, gaining some notoriety for myself, acquiring some sponsors, and, getting some funding for my program. And then I, stepped it up a level again. And me being a kid out in Arizona, there's no water out there, so I didn't know how to swim, but I wanted to take on a triathlon. So instead of doing it, working my way up, I just went straight and did an Ironman.
Wow.
I trained for 2 years and just did it right off the bat. Never did a triathlon and haven't done one since, but I knocked it out and got some more notoriety. And 3 years down the road, I got enough notoriety to be able to fund half of my off-road racing program, and I got some money in my pocket when I saved up during that time, and I was able to get a vehicle and hit the track.
Now, George, the series that you compete in, well, obviously it's the Lucas Oil Off-Road Racing Series. The class of that is the Production 1000 UTVs. And I did a little research because I looked at these and went, those look like Polaris Razors, but oh no, they are not just that. Talk a bit about the vehicles you're piloting, because they are something.
Yeah, so all of the guys have different vehicles, but we drive a Yamaha YXZ 1000R. It's a 3-cylinder motor, 1,000 cc, and they are four-wheel drive vehicles. So they're really stable. They're very safe. We build them with roll cages, and they have quite a bit of horsepower. The power-to-weight ratio is amazing in these things. I mean, we can go into corners at 70 miles an hour and never hit the brakes and just turn the car sideways and just, cruise through corners, and we can also hit jumps, jump 100, 200 feet, no problem.
And what's kind of the difference with that and stuff like the Pro Buggy? Because, this isn't a full-scale, necessarily buggy like what you might see in something like Dirt 4 or something. It's scaled down, but these cars still have tons of power in them.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the biggest difference is it's a production vehicle. That's why they call it the Production 1000 class. All of the other classes, you have to build your own vehicle. These ones, you can go into the showroom, you can buy them at a dealership, make some safety modifications, and you can hit the track yourself. So they gain a lot of popularity, and they're the biggest class now at all of these races.
And a bunch of different classes obviously race at these races. Obviously, you got the pro truck, so stuff like what Brian Deegan's run, RJ Anderson, also names you might recognize in your class, as well as people like Tommy Scranton, and also a name that stuck out to me, Bucky Lassick, who made looks like 1 or 2 starts in the buggies. But what's kind of the challenge that you get of, or I guess, what are some of the benefits, I guess is a better way to say it, of running a production class? Because like you said, it is something that you can walk in, buy, and modify. It kind of harkens back to the early days of NASCAR in a way.
Yeah, a little bit. And like Supercross and stuff too. Like it's a really growing sport. It's the fastest form of racing, period, because so many people can, I guess, afford, in quotes, to be able to do it, because the vehicles you can go buy and you can do it yourself. And the cool part about it is you maybe, get really good drivers out there. RJ Anderson's been out on the course with us this year, and those types of really good drivers. And for me, it's an accomplishment just for me to line up. I'm competing on a professional level against completely able-bodied people being paralyzed and competing for wins and championships. It's really, really cool for me to be able to have that feeling.
And I was able to go to your YouTube channel a little bit before we had lined up the interview and everything, and learned a bit about what you go through during the race. And one of the things you pointed out was that because you're going through so many different, getting thrown around the cab in a meaning of sense, you still have safety harnesses, still have seat belts, but your legs still go through a lot of jostling around during the race, and you actually have a specialty cushion that you have to kind of hold them in place. But For you, what are kind of the stresses that your body has to go through during these races? Because these aren't just flat tracks. You got jumps, you've got whoop-de-doos, you've got high bank turns, you got no bank turns, you got everything in there.
Yeah, exactly. Well, some of the we have a GPS monitor that we actually keep on the car, and we've go into some of the corners, and it can get upwards of 20 Gs. So it's,
wow.
I don't want to equate it to driving a fighter jet, but it's very similar in my mind because it pushes our bodies, and you don't really realize it when you're in the vehicle doing it, but when you see it, on paper, it's just crazy what these cars can do and what your body can actually withstand.
That's incredible. 20 Gs. I can't even imagine what that's like under a racing condition.
Yeah, and I mean the guys in their Pro 4s and Pro 2s doing the Lucas off-road stuff, I mean they're doing even more. But we can go into a corner 60, 70 miles an hour and just turn the wheel, so you can imagine all of the pressure that's inside the vehicle.
What kind of fitness program would you have to go through, and particularly in your situation, what kind of preparation or fitness do you do during the week to prepare for something like that?
I'm a really active guy, so I ride my bicycle all the time, and for me, that's pretty liberating. So that's one of my main things is I need to be able to keep up cardio and just muscle fitness and fatigue. But everybody will tell you that if you want to be a good driver, you just drive. So you spend as much time in the car as possible. You want to be a good rider, you ride. You spend as much time on the bike as possible. So we do a lot of that stuff that's really natural so that we can be prepared when we're in the vehicle.
George, how important was the work on the bicycle for you when you were trying to work back in after the most recent back injury, to be able to work back in to the fitness that you needed to be to get back into the Lucas Oil Off-Road Series and be competitive? Because as we've heard, and as most anybody who would be listening probably well knows, you're a racer. I mean, that competitive fire isn't just going to go away.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the bicycle stuff was twofold for me. It was one, and the most important thing for me was it was overcoming a mental, block or a mental thing that I had to get over, because I'm not just riding a bicycle. I'm putting myself at risk of, being in the street, getting hit by a car, not being able to react properly, falling down, those types of things. So it made me understand that my mind can react very quickly to any situation. So in a racing environment, I could understand if I'm this close to somebody, we're going 70 miles an hour, we're going to go into a turn, and I'm going to be a half an inch away from him. I have to be able to mentally understand that. And then adversely, I'm training my body to be able to do that stuff at the same time. So I'm making my muscles stronger, and they're able to react quicker so that I can do what my mind is telling the car to do in a race situation.
And George, obviously with everything you've gone through, you've still been in the position to compete with people, and you've talked about the people that you've competed with where you did come through, and it was people you're competing with who were on kind of in the same sort of situation as you. But back in, now you're running Production 1000, you're out there with guys who don't have that handicap. Is it, I guess, normal, in a way where people come up and ask about it? Do other drivers ask you about it? How's it kind of affect your chemistry with the other drivers on track?
You know what? I don't know a good way to answer that. The way it affects me is I'm proud. I'm happy I can go out there and I can compete with these guys. I think it's fantastic. To me, it gives me a little bit of an edge in my mind, because I'm going, well, these guys are normal and they're doing it. So I feel like I'm even cooler because I'm not, and I'm out there doing it, So it really, really makes me feel good. And I do get some people that talk to me and ask me about certain things. But I think for the most part, the guys just see me with my helmet on in the vehicle as a threat. I'm out there competing with them, and they want to win just as bad as I do, but I could possibly take it away from them. So I don't know that they consider me any different maybe they do in the pits when they see me walking around, because I kind of walk like a penguin. But for the most part, when I have my helmet on, I'm no different than those guys. I'm going to give it my all, and so are they.
George, for any young racers who might be fighting adversity or have an adversity in their life, what advice for those who are listening would you give them? And, for yourself, what have you learned going through this whole process?
Well, I think one of the main things to learn is you have to have good people around you. I have fantastic supporters. My crew chief, my family, my dad is always around. All of the sponsors that help me, Yamaha, Graves Motorsports, which we're actually sitting in their office today. They let us use their conference room. And all of those people around make a huge difference. So even if you don't have big sponsors, cherish the people that are around you. Be good to them, make sure that you're putting yourself out there on a good, humble level, because no matter what you do, people will understand that and they'll relate to that. And first and foremost, no matter what happens, even if you lose, never give up. Never, ever give up, because you can always be better the next time.
From somebody who's fought some challenges in my own right, I can say that I've been sitting here with chills for the last 20 minutes, just listening to your story and being able to be a part of this. I think I speak for all of us when we say thank you so much for taking some time to talk with us here on the Stock Car Show tonight, George, and definitely keep us abreast of what you're doing going forward into the year, because we'd like to have you back on here at some point down the road to continue to talk about some of the things that you've been up to once the season gets going into full swing, and to hopefully talk about a lot more success.
Oh, I would love to, guys. Thank you very much for having me, and I hope to talk to you guys very soon.
Thank you, George. We appreciate it, and Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you and your family, and to everybody at Graves Motorsports as well. And with that, we will step aside. When we come back, we've got Kyle Souza talking New England motorsports. Right around the turn, you're listening to the Stock Car Show, presented by the fine folks at HMS Motorsport, the leaders in motorsport safety, on PMN, the Performance Motorsports Network.